How many people have more than 26 exit signs at their event? One. Who has more than 52 exit signs at their event? Okay, it's great to see you guys. Everyone needs to improve on that. More exit signs. The faster the people leave, the better it will be. As you know, we are at the parking and traffic, addressing and solving the air show's biggest challenges. My name is Jeffrey Shapiro from Solutions Event Services. I've been in the industry since 1989, and I am the owner of Solutions Event Services Parking and Shuttle since 1999, handling all types of events, PGA, NFL, NCAA, along with obviously air shows. Trying to help everyone out, consultations, whatever it might be, helping the people leave and come more efficiently. On the panelists over here to your left, we have Lieutenant Mark Fontes from Sacramento and Lieutenant Scott McCartney from Sacramento. A little farther to your left, we have Major John Gaffney and Major Raymond Gale from Youngstown Show. Please remember to turn off all your cell phones, and after the session, please, if you have a chance, to fill out the evaluation and leave it at your area that we'll come and pick up. Our session outline, brief introduction. I'm going to go over the basics of parking and traffic, and then we'll move on to some real-life examples from Sacramento and Youngstown, and we'll end up with about a 15-minute question and answer session at the end of the session. Some of the parking basics. 140 cars per acre. You want to figure out how many cars you fit. It's very important that when you're going through this, you take the estimate of people, divide it by 3 is the general rule for air shows, and make sure you have enough parking. You will have a traffic problem if there's not enough parking spaces. When you're setting up your parking area, you want to use 60 feet per double row and aisle, which I'll explain shortly in a diagram. When they're coming in, they get through the gates, and you're trying to get them to their final destination where the parking spot is, you want to minimize their turns. The more turns they make, the slower they are going to go. You want to give them a direct route from the gate to a parking spot. If you do need them to turn, try to make it an arc, not a 90-degree turn. Gates. A lot of people I see, you come in off a highway, you're coming off a 2-lane road, and you have 2 or 3 lanes coming, and then all of a sudden you merge them into a 15-foot gate. Did a great job getting them from the highway, now you get them around the base, and 3 lanes are going into 1 lane. Take the 15-foot gate, make it 30 feet, make it 45 feet. A very simple change will do. Assume 15 feet per car width. I know it's high, I know it's generous. People are excited, they're coming to the show. They're not going to be in that 10 or 12-foot aisle that they're used to. A little bit extra will keep them flowing in the direction they need to go and without any pause. Increasing the traffic flow. They're coming in off the highway, the secondary road, they get through the gate, and now you got to park them. Think of a shotgun. If you're really close up to the shotgun, it hurts. The farther you move away, the less of the blow. Turn that into traffic as they come through the gate, 2, 3, 4 lanes wide. Send them over to 8, 12, or 14 different parking areas at the same time. You might not have that many lots. You have 5 lots. Think about subdividing those lots into 2 or 3 times. So instead of parking 5 cars simultaneously, you're parking 10 or 15 cars simultaneously, spectators putting the car in park. Lessening the blow, getting them in there. This is the diagram I discussed about setting up the parking lot. It's very important that you have a clear distinction of how the cars will be parked, the plan is done, and the people that are enacting the plan are prepared. We have on that yellow line up top, you could use a variety of methods to distinguish it. You could use chalk, you could use field paint, you could use flags, little grass flags, but you'd want that every 60 feet. As you can see, it's the first bumper of the car. The second car should be within a foot of that other car, then you have an aisle, and you repeat this process time after time. You have two options of parking the cars. One, you could throw all the way across, come back, and do the next one, kind of like a Z. If you feel there's going to be a lot of tailgaters at the event, I would suggest you park in the front one, then the back one, then the front one, the back one, working your way down. That doesn't give the tailgaters an opportunity to set up behind you because you already pulled the car right behind them. The one just on the bottom there is when you're pulling the cars in, you need to have them take a nice wide turn. You don't want them adjusting the wheels last minute. You want to make sure they're coming in nice and straight, about 60 feet out. So as soon as they make the turn. Again, you can see here a finished product. Here we're able to use the cuts in the cement instead of actual lines. On the bottom left corner, you can see having a distinguished area. We got nice, easy rows. People understand where they're parked. Leaving is very easy. And on the way in, they were able to identify where the exit is. So putting exit signs up in the middle of the event doesn't really do good. People come in, they're going to park, they should already identify where the exit is. There are signs, so this is taken from a high vantage point. There are signs directing them straight forward to go out the other end. So as they were coming in, they're identifying already where the exit is so they can find their way. Traffic flow. As they're coming in, minimize their turns. Having the staff on both sides, as you can see the yellow dots here, there's staff on both sides of the cars. This doesn't allow a car to veer off. It controls where they're going to go, and you can get them to the spots as needed. Very important, right as the cars are parking, better slide, next one. As you can see, the two individuals right here. The one in the very front, you can see, is identifying the line, which is really painted on the ground, and to bring the front bumper up to the car. The next one on the side, which is the closest to us, is identifying the space. He's taking 3 steps back from the previous space. As the car approaches, he takes another step back. That's going to give about a 12-foot illusion to the spectator that's driving in, which will put that car in about the 9 by 18 space or 10 by 18 space that we have established, so we can maximize the parking, not running out of any spots. Egress. A lot of people forget about this. We started off with this. No one has enough exit signs. No one will ever have enough exit signs. We're all in the air show industry. We all know it's all about the exit. When the jet team lands, everyone runs for their car. And that's the last impression they have. We got to try to make it the best way we can. Plenty and plenty of exit signs. You can never have enough. Exit signs also include signs for the spectators to get from your event to the parking lot they parked in. I'm sure you guys have all experienced someone lost at the event because they don't know what lot they parked in. Or they know they're in the blue lot, but where is the blue lot? So the exit signs begin just as they exit the event, bring them to the parking lot, and then continue on from their car to the exits. A lot of times, if you have the ability on the exit signs, you want to include where they're going to. They're interstate. Are they going north? Are they going south? Are they going east? Those are abilities and times that they would stop and ask someone, where am I going? Every time they stop, slows down traffic. As you have a plan to bring the cars in, it's just important to have a plan going out. During the slow time, usually when the jets are in the air, reset all the cones. Reset your traffic patterns. Have an opportunity for your traffic team to maybe have a 10-minute break, get some water in them, get them ready for the exit, replace them. Prepare them for which lot goes out what exit. If you have 4 exits and you don't prepare, everyone is going to go for a particular exit. And you end up with 100% of the people going out, 25 or 50% of the gates that are available. So you need to take all your lots, divide them up. We have 4 gates, 25% going to each gate. But keep in mind in your central command unit that they are monitoring the gates, and if a gate does slow up, the ability to divert traffic from another gate that's the heaviest over there, using all the opportunities you have to get them off the base, off your site, to the major roads as fast as possible. We just talked about the flexibility to change. Very important. It's difficult to be rigid, you stick to the plan, it's great. On the way out, you need to be flexible. You need to look at opportunities. different gates, different flows, traffic lights. There's a lot of different things that could cause traffic to slow up. Be prepared to change, to send the spectator to the best available gate. Even if it's bringing them north and they want to go south, let them get off the base. They're traveling, they're moving. They're very happy when they're moving slowly. Right, we're going to move on to Sacramento. They're going to give you a real-life example how they fixed their problem.
Can you hear me? It's okay, I got to move around a little bit. I'm Mark Fontes. I'm a lieutenant with Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. I've been out for 24 years. About 4 years ago, I was assigned to the Sheriff's East Division, and it's also a contract city, so I'm the Assistant Chief of Police for Rancho Cordova, and I'm also Assistant Division Commander for the Sheriff's East Division. I came involved in the California Capital Air Show because of my assignment. However, I'm very passionate about it. Muhammad Ali said, it's hard to be humble when you're as great as I am. And we're cops, and that's how we took our very first year. And I'll run through some real quick reasons how we screwed up. And you keep that in mind, hey, we can't do any wrong, we're the professionals, don't worry, man, we got it taken care of. So the California Capital Air Show is a 2-day annual event. We now have September. It's held at Mather, it's an airport now, it's a decommissioned military base, and it's ran by the County of Sacramento Airport System. 2010 marked our 5th anniversary of military and performer jets. We had, the first year, we had just a static display. Mather Airport is in the County of Sacramento, but it's just next to the border of the city of Rancho Cordova. So it works well. We have a couple different departments we can work with to deal with our traffic and parking issues. However, the majority of the traffic is inside the city of Rancho Cordova. We have approximately 120,000 spectators annually. So in 2006, we failed to connect with the air show committee. Late notifications, we had 70 days from absolutely nothing, never even being involved in an air show, to putting on an air show. And remember, we're the ones wearing the cape. So you can't tell us, everything's gonna be okay, man. You can't tell us how to do everything. So we estimated 35,000 people were gonna attend, and we were wrong. We had about 100,000 people attend that year. Our traffic plan was developed by law enforcement. We didn't think about anybody else because, again, we're professionals, right? Well, unfortunately, we had a 2-hour traffic delay just to enter in the airport. We had the director of airports was stuck in traffic. And this is the guy that you want to get in. Well, he was stuck in traffic. Didn't look good for us. We had no public safety access, so any incoming emergency vehicles, they waited in traffic. So Lord forbid you were in need of emergency medical care, you know, unfortunately they're going to be stuck in traffic as well. We didn't have a mass transit plan. We never even considered it because we didn't expect that many people. And there was a serious, unfortunate disconnect with airshow management and key airshow personnel. So what did we do? Well, this is our key to success, planning and preparation. We had 70 days the first year. Now, I start planning the day after the air show. I work the air show for 12 months at a time. You know, people think once the last plane lands, that's it. Not for us. Planning and preparation. We begin our traffic and planning meetings in January, and the air show's in September. So that gives us 9 months of planning, or 8.5 months of planning. Very important, we write an after-action report and we review it. We send out questionnaires, we get input from everybody, because I'm in the command post or I'm inside the air show. I don't know what's going on outside in the street. So it's very important to get this information and learn from our mistakes and use it. We invite our public service partners to the meetings. We didn't do this the first year. Our public service partners, Department of Transportation, Public Works, very important. They're the people out there that control the intersections for us and block off the roads and actually set up roads. We think outside the box. If we have a 2-lane road, we're going to make it a 4-lane road if we can. We're very local to have, or very fortunate to have a lot of outside agencies that are local. We work with ATF, we work with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, Rancho Cordova Police Department, Elko Police Department, West Sac Police Department, Sacramento Police Department, Citrus Heights, Folsom, The fire department, Metro, our fire, we work with all these guys, and they're all, well not guys, people, and they're all at the meetings that we hold. Main thing is we never forget our mistakes. We learn from them. We use an incident command structure. We have a command post. And all the people that are in the command post, we work with throughout the whole year at all of our meetings. When we have a team leader meeting, we bring in people that are responsible for each of those teams so they know exactly what our expectation is. And again, the team leader is going to run the team that's going to help the traffic get in. They're the ones that are going to manage the roadways and some of the parking issues. We do early morning briefing and a debrief. This is what we're going to do today. When we debrief, what went wrong, how can we fix it? That was very key. The first day of the first air show, major traffic problems. The second day, it was resolved because of these meetings. In the command post, we have people that can make decisions. If I need a light change at an intersection, I have somebody from the county that can control that light. They pick up a phone and they change the light timing. If I need something done, we've had emergency road repair. If we need something done, there's somebody sitting right next to me that I can say, take care of that. Pick up the phone and it's done. We didn't have that the first year. Again, we learned from our mistakes. That after-act report is very crucial. We listened to people. We implemented change. We didn't forget what worked and what didn't work. You know, we didn't forget our mistakes. We didn't forget what was good. And we definitely worked real close with airshow logistics. Our airshow logistics manager is concerned about everything on the inside, but he wants to bring in taxis or delivery trucks to our traffic plan. You can't do that. We sit across from the table, good thing we're good friends, and we yell and scream at each other and say, no, you're not going to interfere with my traffic plan. Very important. Am I go the wrong way? Okay, another thing we do is, and I apologize for the poor picture, but we have cameras on all the parking lots and all of the main traffic routes. We have cameras on the freeway. We, inside the command post, we have an eye on all the major intersections. And when Lieutenant McCartney comes up here, he'll explain how he makes changes based on this information. But this is key to us because we can see, and these are all changeable monitors, and this just has to be one that's on a projector. We have other monitors too, but we can see everything that's going on all around the airport, all the main traffic routes. And you know, when a car stops, it backs up and it creates a conga line. But we're always ahead of the conga line because we have these monitors and we're watching traffic. Okay, a parking mistake that we did. We used a nonprofit organization. I don't want to throw them under the bus, but they were nonchalant, kind of, I don't know, they weren't as passionate as we were. So they came in and said, we'll park your cars for X amount of dollars. Well, what we found out is that these guys didn't understand the complexity of parking. They would leave their posts early. They wouldn't turn the signs around for the exit. And at one point on the first year, they abandoned the air show. So we had a mess. We had cars parked all over the place, and people didn't know how to leave the air show. So what we did is now we hired a professional parking organization. They take care of everything. They take care of the tickets. They take care of all the parking, and they're there at every one of our meetings. So if we have an issue about parking, we can address it. So not only is it logistics and parking and traffic, it's all those agencies all year planning. And if somebody wants to make a change, we can address it way before the air show. Another thing, we heard Jeff talk about signs. We use huge signboards that are interchangeable. So people know when they're coming in where to park, and then around 2:30, 3 o'clock we swap. We flip them around so people know how to exit. It's very important. Sometimes we'll change the way people leave and they want to enter and exit at the same gate. Those signboards are fabulous. They work great because you can see them clear across the parking lot. The parking liaison is inside the command post with us. So he's one of the very busy guys at the beginning of the air show, along with the traffic chief. And they talk constantly on how to resolve problems. We know when a parking lot is going to fill up, and we can estimate how many cars are lined. And if we can handle another 100 cars, we're going to redirect traffic 100 cars down the road so that conga line gets in, and we've alleviated a traffic jam or congestion right there at the gate. If we need to change anything, these people are there, ready to make the change, and it's been very successful for us. Lieutenant McCarthy is coming up next, and he'll be able to explain what he actually does to keep our air show successful. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me okay? My name is Scott McCartney. I'm a lieutenant with the West Sacramento Police Department. Prior to that, I was a sergeant with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. And that's how Mark and I did all this. So I've been involved since 2006, since the start of it. The first year, I was just a motor officer buzzing around, and we had to take buses on the wrong side of the road because that's that 2-hour delay that we're talking about. We had some serious issues with that, but we had a lot of fun as motor officers doing that. But since then, I've become the traffic chief, and I've taken over all traffic coming in and leaving the event in the city. So I'm going to run through a few things to help you with that. Basically, in 2006, we had 2 dedicated traffic routes. In other words, we didn't really care. People just showed up. We also had only 2 gates. Huge problem with 2 gates into an air show, trying to get 100,000 people in. Big issue. To date, we have now 5 or 6 gates. We have partnered with the outside agencies, just like Mark said. We have dedicated traffic channels. So I have my own channel when I run traffic. It does not interfere with anyone else. It's just my own channel. We have training and continuity. The same people have been doing the traffic plan, or I have, since I took it over after the first year, and I've continued to do it for the last 5 years. Continuity definitely benefits in the outcome of how your traffic plan is. The other thing is trust, and I'll go into some other things regarding some of the people that work for you during that traffic plan. Using outside agencies, I'll talk more about that in public safety partners. Some of the things that we did to make it successful, as Mark talked about, was adding 5 dedicated traffic routes. I have 2 maps, an inbound map and an outbound map, and I'll show you those here in a second. We added a traffic gate on the west end, so we kind of, the way the field is, you know how airfields are, we have traffic routes coming all around that airfield, off freeways, on the city streets, into the air show. And they go into specific gates, and I'll be able to show you that here in a second. We have pedestrian gates. We decided to do that because we had a lot of pedestrians walking through cars trying to come in. That slowed everything down, so we kind of fixed that. We have emergency response gate. Now we have a dedicated lane where all emergency vehicles can come into. In prior air shows, we've had a bus route. That bus route has always been the emergency route into the air show with the buses, because we can stop buses and bring in law enforcement. The thing with buses, though, as anything else, something that happened to us, is buses were coming in, and they were coming into the air show into a private parking lot area to do the turnaround. Well, as they kept coming in full of cars, we had 55 buses going back and forth from our team. As they kept going and in, it blew up the entrance. I mean, the cement blew up, the asphalt tore away. We couldn't even get buses in. So this is where continuity and having people that have experience, we came in, and within 20 minutes we had a new bus route and a new entrance through a different gate that we weren't using. And it took 20 minutes to change that, so that was very helpful. I created post orders. This is something that is very good to have with your work traffic. Anybody who's working the air show, develop post orders. The post orders that are in your handout as well are very easily done to let them know what radio channel they're on, what the phone number of their supervisor is, what their job function is. Very beneficial, something you can hand out during a briefing, and then it gives them something to do, so they can't say, I didn't know what to do. Well, you trained them, you give them a post order, and they can do that. It's very helpful. I talked about the failed gates. We had the plan to deal with that. We already had those plans in place after the first time we had to go through it. Detailed after action report. For the last several years, Mark and I, well, I guess since we started doing it, Mark and I have been doing the after action report. It's very detailed. We sent out a questionnaire to everybody that worked regarding traffic, parking, logistics, planning, etc. and we get that information back, and we do an after-action report. The nice thing about the after-action report and tabletop exercises, if you haven't done those, we did a tabletop exercise about 3 months before our actual air show, regarding an incident at the air show, should something occur. Well, based on that after-action report of that tabletop, we actually were able to implement recommendations we talked about, into the air show so that we had it, like a secondary command post. If we get compromised in our command post, we got to have something to be able to deal with it, so we have a second command post within the city. Here's the inbound route. I don't know if this is here's obviously the air show right here. Each route has different coming off freeways, which is the major road here. Basically, every route has a way that comes in as individual gates. They can come from the South Sacramento up this route and come in the back way. They can come from north or El Dorado Hills up Tahoe, that area. They can also come off these two areas. They meet in the middle and they come down in shared lanes and they come in. This cannot be done without certified police officers and people that know how to do traffic. I don't use a lot. To give you an example, in years past we've used a lot of overtime to pay for the traffic officers. This last year we had 120,000 people show up, and my traffic plan was basically free because I brought in other units that use their own time to do it. And I also trained volunteers from Travis Air Force Base to be traffic guys to help move cars around. Outbound has changed just a little bit differently because the outbound, these don't come together anymore right here and go out this way. They bring this back up. This is a dedicated bus route that comes in, goes all the way into the air show and turns around and comes back out. There are no cars on that route. I block everything so it's just buses. And they run stop signs, they just keep going. Some of the successes that I have used, that we have used in ours, is the traffic patrol experienced people, post orders, and continuity. Getting the same people involved. Getting local law enforcement around your air show involved in the air show. Traffic management, light management, remote, just like Mark said, I can tell the traffic guy I need the lights changed like that. And he can change the timing so traffic on their way out has more access to get out quicker. Motors. You know, I'm a prior motor, 18 years, so I'm going to say motors will solve all your problems. It's actually a true statement. They're mobile, they're moving around, they fix things. I can't be outside and I'm inside, so I trust them enough and allow them to go around and take care of business. They're traffic officers. They know how to deal with problems and they fix them. It's been very beneficial. We also use motors for dignitary, VIP, and Thunderbird and Blue Angel escorts. We escort them from their hotel in. They get a police escort. Full complement of motor officers who train together, work together, and do dignitary escorts. Come in, bring them in. We even brought in the Raptors this year, and they enjoyed that too. We have a game plan. We have experienced people that do it, and communication is always the best way to handle that. We're going to have questions afterwards, but I just going to turn this over now to Ray, who's going to go on and start his. I also have business cards, so if you need those, you can have those.
I'm Ray Gale from the Youngstown Air Reserve Station. Prior to our 2008 open house and our 2009 air show, I had zero experience in parking transportation, especially for large events like air shows. Major John Gaffney played a key role in our air show and open house planning. He took care of the ground stuff, and he was involved in some of the parking and transportation issues also. ICAS has a lot of resources and a lot of people with a lot of knowledge on this kind of stuff, and communication with them is one of the things that helped us. Our presentation is going to cover briefly the situation at Youngstown in the general area, how we applied the nation-building model used in military operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, and how to employ that model at your air show. I brought some maps that we use for our air show planning because it was my experience that you cannot talk about air show parking and transportation without having maps on a table. And they're in the back, and they're available for discussion when this all ends out in the hallway. We're a small base on a civilian airport. We're a reserve base. We're not active duty, so we don't have the manpower, nor do we have the resources that you might associate with a larger Air Force base. The majority of our parking ended up being on grassy fields on clay soil, which is why we chose the driest month of the year to have our air show. You'll see, if you take a look at those maps, there was very limited road access. We had one major east-west and one major north-south runway, or highway, and the rest of the roads were one lane going this way and one lane coming the other way. That was the majority of our roads. This slide is just to give you an idea of all the entities that we worked with and that worked with us to make the parking and transportation happen. There's actually more that we worked with, but the slide wasn't big enough to put more on in a neat and orderly fashion. A lot of these entities are county, township, and state. Very few federal agencies involved other than the Department of Homeland Security, the ATF, at our air show. Yeah, and if you're familiar with those kind of entities, some of them have just a couple of full-time employees. They have one or two police cars. They do have auxiliary volunteer people that they bring in to help with things like this, but their budgets are, especially in this economy, are tight. But our parking and transportation depended on these people, and the reason is because all of our parking and all of our public traffic routes were outside the fence. And in the peacetime CONUS, the military has no authority outside the fence in the U.S. You have to have an emergency for them to have any authority. So in 2008, the Wing Commander sent a team here to ICAS and signed up a major act, the Blue Angels. Came back to the base, and one of the things that helped contribute to our success was he started with the very highest levels of the federal, state, the local area, the airport manager, the county commissioners, the governor's regional rep in the area, the congressmen sent a member of their staff. He had a meeting with just those people and said, we're putting on an air show. Now, the definition of we at that point was different, I think, among everybody at that table, because there was no way that we could put this on and do the parking and transportation on the military side. It all had to be done outside the fence. These people that attended that meeting, the highest level, then they were encouraged to invite all the local boots on the ground people to the first parking and transportation meeting. And so the military didn't invite them to that. They were invited by the informal and the formal chain of command or hierarchy that exists out there in the civilian world. We also included a member of the BCC played a major part. In fact, he became our partner. And if you're a military operation having to deal with getting the opportunity to deal with the off-base entities, you want to have a civilian partner who is a mover and a shaker in the community, because he knows who does what and how to get them to engage. After the surge, and I'm going to touch on this real quick. After the shock and awe that took over Iraq, there were 15 million Iraqis put out of work. Iraqi men put out of work. And so after about 2 years, there started to be a problem with them working against us. And a group, including General Petraeus, rewrote the counterinsurgency manual that they used. And it was basically instructions on how to deal with community or tribal leaders or sectarian leaders to enable them to do the things that they want to do for the people in their jurisdiction or their tribe or their community. And we took that book and some of the doctrine and some of the tips that are in there when we began to engage with all the civilian entities that were going to make the parking and transportation thing a success. We fostered a partnership with everybody. We hadn't had an air show in 20-some years. We had an open house the year before, which we had a lot of problems with. And the air show was a whole different ballgame because it involved a major act now. So the military in this situation took on the role of facilitator only. And I would encourage you to realize that the parking and transportation challenge for any air show, with a major act especially, is a strategic people / multiple authorities or jurisdiction challenge. And the guy leading the meeting, you don't necessarily want to designate as the leader, as the decision maker. You're better off, I'm convinced, with a facilitator who's going to facilitate that meeting such that you can involve the correct process owners, the guys who are going to execute the plan on air show day, and you have consensus decision making. So if somebody says, I can't do this, somebody else can say, well, here, we can help you with that, or the facilitator can ask, well, what can you do? And all these entities are going to bump up and interact with each other on air show days during the Parking and Transportation Challenge. They have already worked this out during the planning. You are going to have problems that you didn't address in the planning, but if everybody knows what's going on and they've had a chance to make input and they know what everybody else is doing, they can make on-the-spot decision making. And then inform your emergency operations center or your command post or your incidents or your ICC, whatever you want to call it. When we began to facilitate these parking and transportation meetings, we ran with first do no harm. Everybody in that room is a leader. Everybody in that room has great responsibilities in their community. Every one of them is a public servant. And the last thing we wanted to do was for someone like the military to start directing people to do stuff outside that fence where the military would have no business directing. Anybody who do that decides they can solve it better because they're more familiar with their jurisdiction and their people. So it was asked, not tasked. And if they said they couldn't, we would say, well, what can you do? And then, you got your peers their peers interacting with them too. And you have those discussions that go on in the meeting and also offline. We built consensus, and what we did after every meeting was we updated what we call the CONOPS. It's a plan, it's a living document, and it essentially obligates people to what they said they would do in a meeting. And it grew from 1 page to over 30. It included maps and diagrams, and we took notes. We had several people taking notes while the meetings went on, discussions went on. And sometimes, we didn't formally say, okay, this is what we're going to do in this area right now, but when we put it in the CONOPS, we would send that out a week after the meeting with the date and the time and the place for the next meeting, and people would read that, and then they would come back into the first meeting, and that was the start point. If there was something on there that they had an issue with, that's where we started. And they said, I don't know who told you that that was a good thing to do, but that can't happen that way. And then somebody would say, yeah, but it could happen this way. And so it forces, in a way, interaction. And it provides definition. And we always try to keep in mind that all these people are limited by their communities in resources and funding and manning and how many people they can bring to the fight. So to demand too much of them would always be a mistake. At the first meeting, of course, we captured contact information, especially email, so we could we didn't have meeting minutes, we would send out the CONOPS or the plan after every meeting. We put people's names in there as points of contact, as the primary responsibility person. And this allowed them to they realized quickly that they were taking ownership of what was in that plan, and that their peers knew what they were responsible for, and that was a good thing because most of them ended up offering more than they initially thought they could. And the coordinated planning allowed on-the-spot decision-making. And we ended up hiring a transportation company for the buses. It was Callaway Transportation, and they even were receiving copies of that. And so when they showed up 4 weeks prior, we had our exercise, they added some things to our plan and to the information that we were sharing that made our plan even a little bit better. And we did have tabletops. We also had walkthroughs with buses actually on the routes and issues occurring. And those are mandatory, especially if you haven't done one of these things in a while. So I'm going to turn this over to John Gaffney.
I'm Major John Gaffney. My role in putting this together was, like Major Dale said, in 2008 was the year before our air show, and we had a one-day open house, and it was kind of, because we hadn't had a public event on our base in a very long time, that we tested a lot of things, and we had a similar experience to Sacramento Police Department for their first air show. A lot of things went wrong with our parking plan, and a lot of assumptions were incorrect. So we had the opportunity to fix a lot of things, and for our air show, things did go quite a bit better. One of the things, and I kind of fell into being the action officer, you will, or the point of contact for our open house because nobody else wanted to do it, and I'm an intelligence officer and I was kind of bored, so I said I'm going to take on this new project. And on military installations, you know, we all have a emergency operations command structure that we all use, and after 9/11, because of Homeland Security, the military actually adopted the civilian incident command structure. And for those in the Air Force, if you ever wondered why it's no longer called a Wing Operations Center and it's now an Incident Command Center, ICC, and an Emergency Operations Center, and I said we're going to use this on the day of our open house, and then we used it on the day or for our air show, and it was a combined civilian and military, just like the Sacramento Police Department used. We had an Emergency Operations Center. It was on our facility. It was in our Emergency Operations Center on the air base, and it was essential to problem solving on the day of the air show. Everybody was there, and we were able to solve problems on the spot. We had a communications plan, and everybody was able to contact, and we were able to solve problems, and that was very crucial. It worked. We used it for our open house. It worked, and it paid huge dividends for our air show the next year. We did have some unexpected benefits from our air show. The surrounding, the military, federal, law enforcement agencies, fire, emergency management, EMS, and medical, through planning and the exercises that we went through for our air show, they actually had enough meetings, exercises, and execution interaction that they met all their annual training requirements very easily for that year. They had real world, because we did have a mass disaster exercise prior to our air show. The interagency cooperation and understanding was at a new level. We had agencies in our local area and our regional area that through either past bad experiences didn't work well with each other, but all came together and worked very well with each other, and that's continued to go on. Finally, this was totally unexpected. There were some Homeland Security individuals that were involved, and the local region received a $400,000 grant from the Department of Homeland Security to acquire a new mobile command post. This was something that wasn't asked for, it was completely unexpected. And because they were there and they saw our Emergency Operations Center and the local regional mobile command post was there, and they saw how outdated it was, they're like, we're giving you a new one, and here's the money to go buy it. Just to sum up, an air show, it's a very good opportunity for agencies to demonstrate their talents to the community. Not just the military and show, but you have all these law enforcement, emergency, EMS, fire department that do a very good job of what they do, and they all come together and they're doing this. And the exercises, it can all lead into, if there was some type of a disaster in your area, that this would feed into their training. And in summary, what we realized from our experience is that it's not if, but how these problems are solved will determine the success of your parking and transportation operation. You can have a plan, but if the people don't agree with your plan, or they don't have input or buy-in, they're not going to execute the plan, and it's not going to work. So that's all. We have a handout as well, and I guess it's now time for questions.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, we'll start off some questions. There is a microphone in the middle if you guys feel you need it. If you want the question to be directed to a particular person or group, please let us know. Again, my name is Jeff. We have Sacramento and Youngstown. Gentlemen over there.
Commander Harris from Naval Air Station 4. There was no mention of handicap access. How do you work that into the plan?
You discussing about a particular group here?
Yeah, really, to get them to a handicap parking so they don't park way away from a different parking lot, or if you do park them, how do you get from there to the ship side area?
That's a good question, and in the time you saw us go through all this, there's assumption. But yes, we have in ours anyway, very close to the gate, and they're free to come in and park right there. They're directed, no matter where they come from, to go to that area to park. And when they do that, then they can just get out of their cars and literally within 10, well, unless you park a little further away, but they can basically get right in. And if we do have to park them further out, then we will do shuttle buses or golf carts and have them brought in. And John's shaking his head, so I'm assuming, unless you have anything else to add, John.
Yeah, we did the same thing at Youngstown. We had a specially designated parking area for handicap, and we had wheelchair vans that would bring them from the parking area into on base. And so we made arrangements for that, and that is crucial to your parking plan is the handicap access to the facility.
And let me just clarify one thing. Since Sacramento has 5 traffic inbound gates, we have 5 different VIP handicap or ADA parking areas. What we've experienced in the past is somebody would come in a west gate and the VIP or the ADA parking would be clear across the airport. So in order to fix the problem, we have 5 of them, one to accommodate each gate.
At Youngstown, it was a military air show, so we could not charge admission. But we did make tickets, and the tickets were associated with parking lots so that we based the amount of tickets on parking lots plus 10%. And there was one parking lot that was designated handicapped only, and it was on the ticket. And anybody that wanted a handicap ticket could obtain one and had the routing on how to get there, exactly where it was, and then how they would also exit that. And we thought that was kind of crucial to have the instructions to each parking lot on the ticket, and it was one way that we ensured that no parking lots overflow. Because we hadn't done this in 20-some years. The open house the year before had been bad weather the whole time. We didn't have a real good handle on how many people we might get.
In the back of blue.
Youngstown, your parking supposedly was vastly improved the second time around. Everyone says that. I'm actually from an Air Force Reserve base also. But how much do you contribute to your plan, or how much do you contribute to a large influx of money that you got for more busing? Was busing the key to making your plan work? Is that what made the transportation plan so much better the second time around as from the year before in the open house? It alleviated all the major traffic jams. Is that correct or not correct?
Partially. Okay, am I here? This one dead. Oh, here we go. The buses, the year that we had our air show, we had to have buses because we used an off-site parking facility that we didn't have the year before. So the buses were not the key difference between. There were many facets to the plan, avenues of approach and exit and other parking areas that we didn't consider that, for the 2008 open house that we did find viable for the 2009 air show. And then we actually had, the airport authority did build one, maybe 2 gates into the fence area onto the airport authority property that allowed us to use some of those. The Trumbull County Fairground, which was our off-site parking that we used busing for, was kind of an overflow parking, and it was part of the plan, but it wasn't the singularly different part that made 2009 a success versus 2008. There were a lot of things that went wrong in 2008 that we fixed.
Gentleman in the black.
So on one of the first 2 presenters here had a professional company that you hired to be able to handle your parking. What criteria did you use to be able to decide which of the parking companies to be be able to use? And how do you pay them? Is it based on they take a piece of the revenue from the parking pass, or is it a flat fee?
I can address that. Initially, we used a nonprofit organization, and again, they weren't committed. The executive director, initially we didn't have an executive director, we have one now, and the board, I believe it was the board and the executive director, they made a decision and they found this company. And the company runs huge parking lots in San Francisco, and they happen to be in Sacramento. And they manage everything. They manage all aspects of it. So what it did is it took the responsibility off of us and we gave it to a professional. And I don't know how they get paid, but they take a percentage of the tickets, I believe, or the sale for each parking pass, and they manage everything, all aspects of it. So it worked really well. We didn't have to worry about parking. They had all the staff there. We didn't have to worry about them leaving their post or abandoning the air show. And it was probably one of the best things we did in respect to parking vehicles. So my recommendation is to search out, and unfortunately don't have the criteria, search out, do interviews, and we're fortunate to get somebody who had a lot of experience. Thank you.
Gentleman on the left.
What are the combined totals of your attendance from all your shows? Hearing some great information. How many folks do you bring in?
In Sacramento, before this last year, I think the average was about 90. This year, I'm sorry, 2010, the estimation was 120. So that's...
Per day or for the weekend?
Oh, for the weekend, sorry. And again, initially we thought that we were going to have probably 35,000 people. So now we're prepared to handle, in fact, we could probably handle 120 a day because, again, we learned from our mistakes.
And weather being at what it is, the last few shows, last couple of years, we had high winds, 25 mile an hour. So that really hindered people showing up, and obviously the planes and flights and different things. And then we also, one year it rained. So, you play with that and that affects it.
Gentleman right in front of the red.
This is a semi-loaded question, but